Alright. The Raven Paradox, also known as Hempel's Paradox. I'm going to read the Wikipedia article as I usually do. Is a paradox arising from the question of what constitutes evidence for the truth of a statement. Observing objects that are neither black nor ravens may formally increase the likelihood that all ravens are black, even though intuitively these observations should be unrelated. The problem was proposed by the logician Carl Gustav Hempel in the 1940s to illustrate a contradiction between inductive logic and intuition. And then there's a picture of a black raven and a whole bunch of apples. And there's a caption that says, "The Raven Paradox suggests that both of these images contribute evidence to the supposition that all ravens are black." Alright, so the paradox here. Hempel describes the paradox in terms of the hypothesis. 1. All ravens are black. In the form of an implication, this can be expressed as, if something is a raven, then it is black. Via contraposition, this statement is equivalent to 2. If something is not black, then it is not a raven. In all circumstances where 2 is true, 1 is also true, and likewise, in all circumstances where 2 is false. My brain wanted to say true. In all circumstances where 2 is false, 1 is also false. So if we have something that is not black, and it is a raven, then not all ravens are black. And if we have something that is black that is not a raven, let's see, if something is not black, and it is a raven, then 1 is false. If something is black and is not a raven, that should be irrelevant. All ravens are black. If something is a raven, then it is black. If it is a raven, then it's black. If it's not black, it's not a raven. Okay. So, if it's not black and not a raven, then we have evidence that all ravens are black. Okay. Given a general statement such that all ravens are black, a form of the same statement that refers to a specific observable instance of the general class would typically be considered to constitute evidence for that general statement. For example, my pet raven is black, is evidence supporting the hypothesis that all ravens are black. The paradox arises when this same process is applied to statement 2. On citing a green apple, one can observe, this green apple is not black, and it is not a raven. Or if we were just to phrase it like 2 in the first place, this is not black. Let's see. No, I guess it is. It is. Yeah, this green apple is not black. It's not a raven. Okay, sure. By the same reasoning, this statement is evidence that 2, if something is not black, then it is not a raven. Huh? But since, as above, this statement is logically equivalent to 1, all ravens are black, it follows that the sight of a green apple is evidence supporting the notion that all ravens are black. This conclusion seems paradoxical because it implies that information has been gained about ravens by looking at an apple. Right. Well, okay. So, my problem with all of this fucking bullshit is we're working in the realm of logic. The realm of logic is not the realm of reality. Which is why philosophers say stupid shit a lot. And it's actually pretty much why science gets to distinguish itself from philosophy. Because when logic works out, science comes along and is like, hey, that's ours, bitch. And when logic doesn't work out, that gets left in the realm of philosophy. And you end up with shit like the Sorites paradox, where people just don't understand what the fuck is happening, and they don't even recognize that they're saying that a complete lack of sand is a heap of sand, based on their premises. Logic is not the real world, right? A lot of logically valid things are completely false. So, this isn't weird. This isn't a paradox that's real. This is a paradox that's stupid. Okay, so we're assuming that this formal relationship between if something is a raven, then it is black, and if something is not black, it is not a raven. We're assuming that that tells us something. That works always. And then we're finding a situation where it's not really working, and then freaking out about it. Your assumption that logic is telling you about the real world without real world observations backing it up is the problem. It's not the problem. The problem isn't that the logic is flawed. It is consistent, sure. Within the logical system, that contraposition is totally fine. Okay. And within the logical system, yes, seeing a green apple confirms that all ravens are black. That's fine. But that doesn't make it real. That doesn't mean that seeing a green apple actually tells you anything about black ravens. It just tells you that within a logical system where you're following these rules and obeying these rules and you believe in them, that is a consequence. Right? Also, I'm gonna look up something. Albino raven. Huh. Look at this motherfucker. There's a white raven. There you go. Problem solved. Not all ravens are black. Done. Holy shit. This thing is hard to set up. Alright. Yeah, so carrying on. Proposed resolutions. Blah, 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 blah. Accepting non-ravens is relevant. A lot of them do this. Hempel himself did this. Okay. Hempel himself accepted the paradoxical conclusion, arguing that the reason the result appears paradoxical is that we possess prior information without which the observation of the non-black non-raven would indeed provide evidence that all ravens are black. He illustrates this with the example of the generalization, all sodium salts burn yellow, and asks us to consider the observation that occurs when somebody holds a piece of pure ice in a colorless flame that does not turn yellow. Okay, so it doesn't. This result would confirm the insertion, whatever does not burn yellow is not sodium salt, and consequently, by virtue of the equivalence condition, it would confirm the original formulation. Why does this impress us as paradoxical? The reason becomes clear when we compare the previous situation with the case of an experiment where an object whose chemical constitution is as yet unknown to us is held in a flame and fails to turn it yellow, and where subsequent analysis reveals it to contain no sodium salt. This outcome, we should no doubt agree, is what was to be expected on the basis of the hypothesis. Thus, the data here obtained constitute confirming evidence for the hypothesis. In the seemingly paradoxical cases of confirmation, we are often not actually judging the relation of the given evidence, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we have the idea that all sodium salts burn yellow, and then we take some random shit, try to burn it, and if it comes out yellow, then maybe it's a sodium salt. We don't know. And if it doesn't come out yellow, then we assume that it's not a sodium salt. It doesn't mean that it isn't, because we presupposed that all sodium salts burn yellow. Notice that. We presupposed that all sodium salts burn yellow. So it doesn't actually matter what we observe. The color of the flame doesn't tell us shit about anything. Because we don't know whether it's a sodium salt or not. We're assuming that all sodium salts burn yellow. That was our presupposition. This is where logic fails to represent reality. You have an assertion, a premise, an axiom, and then you're trying to draw from that truths about reality. And then sometimes you get these weird paradoxes when you do that, and then you're like, oh my god, brr! And the logicians are like, no, it's legit, it's totally legit, you just have to trust it. No. All sodium salts burn yellow. So if we try to burn ice and it doesn't come out yellow, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell us anything. Okay, it's not a sodium salt. Say we know that it's pure ice and it's not a sodium salt. Okay? That doesn't tell us anything. Even if it does burn yellow, that doesn't tell us that doesn't tell us anything. The only thing you can do is go get sodium salts, things that you know are sodium salts, and burn them. And burn all possible sodium salts that you can find and see if they all come out to burn yellow. That's the only way you can actually do this. The other shit doesn't confirm or disconfirm because it's irrelevant. Well, a bunch of these they're accepting it's Carnap approach. Marr accepts the paradoxical conclusion and refines it. A non-raven of whatever color confirms that all ravens are black because the information that this object is not a raven removes the possibility that this object is a counterexample to the generalization, and 2, it reduces the probability that unobserved objects are ravens, thereby reducing the probability that they are counterexamples to the generalization. And I have a problem with this because up above here somewhere, where was it? Let me find. Okay. This is a little higher than I thought it was. Okay. So this claim, realistically, the set of ravens is finite. The set of non-black things is either infinite or beyond human enumeration. To confirm the statement, all ravens are black, it would be necessary to observe all ravens. This is difficult but possible. To confirm the statement, all non-black things are non-ravens, it would be necessary to examine all non-black things. This is not possible. Okay, I have issues with this. Okay. The set of ravens is not necessarily finite, because they reproduce. So if you can set them up in a situation where they can reproduce forever, then the set of ravens is now infinite. Okay, so that claim that the set of ravens is finite, I don't agree with. The set of non-black things is either infinite or beyond human enumeration. Is it? That's a wild assumption. Okay. I don't see why we should assume that, but okay. So to confirm the statement that all ravens are black, it would be necessary to observe all ravens. That's not true. That's not true either. So far, no sentence in this set of claims is true, because all you have to do is find one raven that's not black. And guess what? I just showed you pictures of multiple ravens that are not black when I looked up albino raven. There's multiple individuals that came up there on screen that are not black and are ravens. So you don't have to observe all of them. You just have to find one that isn't black, which might be the first one you ever see. Who knows? To confirm the statement, all non-black things are non-ravens, it would be necessary to examine all non-black things. For the same reason, that's not true either. Right? Find a non-black raven, and you've found a non-black thing that is a raven, and that contradicts all non-black things are non-ravens. Okay? It claims this is not possible. It is possible. I just showed you that it's possible. Observing a black raven could be considered a finite amount of confirmatory evidence, but observing a non-black non-raven would be an infinitesimal amount of evidence. Okay. And again, the set of ravens claiming that that's finite is nonsense, because ravens reproduce. So it's impossible for a human being to observe them all unless we wipe them out. If we wipe them out completely and somehow figure out the color of every raven going back through all of history, since ravens began, right? This is not possible. They're claiming that this is possible to determine this. It's not possible. But now, let's come back to the Carnap approach, right? So here, the information that this object is not a raven removes the possibility that this object is a counterexample of the generalization, and it reduces the probability of unobserved objects being ravens, thereby reducing the probability that it does not, because when you have an infinite set and you remove one from it, it doesn't change anything about the size of that set. It doesn't. Right? So people, like, at every level, we have all these complicated ass formulas and shit, and these Bayesian pointed views and all this bullshit, and it's wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong, because what they're doing is they're trying to save the baby that is logic. And they're refusing to throw out the bathwater when really the thing that we should be caring about isn't even in the bathtub. It's tucked safely away in bed. It's somewhere else entirely. Go ahead, throw out the dirty bathwater. This is bullshit. What are you doing? The reason that you have a paradox here is because you're thinking about it wrong.